smell that, Liz?
I do. It smells really good.
It smells like Shabbat or Passover.
Yeah.
It smells like my grandmother's
like the holidays.
house.
Yeah.
What are we gonna make?
We're making chicken soup and matzo balls. Yeah, and we've got chicken soup. It's been going for about 3 hours now. So this kitchen smells amazing.
Yeah.
I think that smell is kind of creeping into every corner of the house.
It finds its way into every closet and nook and cranny. You know it's Passover, you know it's Shabbat because of that chicken soup smell.
So, all right. So we've got the soup going. We'll get to that. But maybe let's make matzo balls. Let's make the classic. Let's make knedel.
Listen, I love making matzo balls, knedlach. I find that often we use matzo ball soup mixes, or you use the matzo meal from the store.
Yep.
But one of the interesting things about matzo meal is that it's a modern innovation. It's a byproduct of the matzah industry, and you have all this cracked matzah, leftover matzah. You can turn it into a meal. But I like to make my own matzah meal, and it's really easy to do.
Yeah, it's fun too.
So let's make it.
Let's do it.
So we're gonna smash our matzahs up, and let's get them nicely packed here, and
rock and roll, yeah.
You want to do the first smash?
Yeah, I want to do the first smash. Okay, so we've got this, our mallet, and we just got like about 3 matzah.
Yeah,
all right. Oh, it's very satisfying, actually.
Satisfying.
This feels great. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you.
That's fun.
Just break it up nice. One of the nice things about making your own matzah meal is that you can get some nice texture in the matzah ball as well, and it doesn't have to be the same consistency as the typical matzo balls, and it's a nice little touch of home. And I just always like to just go through.
Yeah.
So
all right.
I think that I think it's good.
Looks pretty crushed. Let's see what's going on in there.
Oh wow! Look, here's our matzah meal. A little bit more like a matzah farfel, depending on the sizes.
Nice. Well, we can keep crushing it.
But again, I like that texture, so I'm gonna make it a little smaller. And then let's use this.
Let's do it. Okay, great.
And so about 1 matzah is about 1/4 cup of matzah meal.
Yeah.
So if you're doing your substitutions, and I'm just going to go through with my hand and just crunch a few of the big ones. Now another way of doing this that's maybe a little bit better for getting smaller pieces is using the food processor.
Right, and so we'll just put a whole piece of matzah into the food processor, run it for about 20 seconds, and you've got yourself your homemade matzah meal. So you never have to buy matzah meal again. Okay, so you've got your matzah meal. What else, I think you're going to put a little more matzah meal in.
I always have a little bit of leftover matzah meal at home too, and I always, for good measure, I just put a little bit of a finer matzah meal into my mixture.
Yep.
And so we're going to add that. Of course, we want to add some salt, some kosher salt into our matzo ball mix.
You get a little more.
I have some more in there.
That salt in there. Yeah. Great.
Okay, and then
basic.
Well, this is a big question. This is some baking powder, and it's do we want a sinker or a floater? I mean, that's kind of one of those big binaries within the Jewish food spectrum. Where do you fall on that?
Well, I certainly grew up with more floater matzo balls, but as I started crushing my own matzah, liking a little bit more texture in my matzo ball, I have started to get really into the sinkers, so I can go either way.
This was a big debate at my home. My grandmother made a dense sinker matzo ball. My mother made a floater, a fluffier matzo ball. And frankly, I tend to go with my grandmother's cooking, but my mother's matzo balls were pretty good too. So I like to do something, a hedge, somewhere in between. Yeah. So I'm going to put a little bit of baking powder, and a little bit goes a long way.
And people will say that, you put seltzer or egg whites, but I'd say in our experience, baking powder is sort of the...
It's kind of a magic.
Yeah, it's sort of the easiest solution. I've never found seltzer to really make a difference, but I'm sure I'll get angry letters about that.
And I'm just going to mix this together.
Awesome.
Mix it nice. And one of the things I will say about the seltzer piece is it's never a bad idea to put seltzer in anything because seltzer is so wonderful. So if you want to try it, great. But frankly, I don't think it's necessary also.
Yeah.
So we mix that together.
Great. So you've got the dry ingredients there. I'm going to get into the wet ingredients here. So we've got some schmaltz.
Oh,
this is key. And I think that when I grew up, we didn't necessarily have schmaltz in our matzo balls. We didn't have that rendered poultry fat flavor in our matzo balls. But you and I both know this is obviously key to a very tasty matzo ball. So if you're making vegetarian matzo ball soup, obviously don't use schmaltz. You can swap for an oil, a vegetable oil, very simple, less flavorful vegetable oil like a grapeseed oil. But if you are going for schmaltz, go for schmaltz. I mean, this is duck schmaltz here.
And not just for flavor, it really does change the texture of the matzo ball as well. And it also adds a richness to the soup, and that's when that fat is going to kind of ooze into the soup as you cut up your matzo ball. And
no
it's
doubt.
Really nice.
Great. So we've got our schmaltz. We've also got something that we like to do is pull a little of the stock out of the matzo ball soup, the soup itself that we're making, and pour that into our matzo balls instead of using water.
Yeah. Again, we want to add that flavor. We could just use water or seltzer, but we want a rich matzo ball that can stand on its own.
Yep, and of course we've got some eggs. So I'm just going to whip all that up.
Yeah.
And then we can combine these two.
So when you're mixing your dry ingredients into the wet, you want to make sure not to over-mix. If you over-stir, if you work it too much, your matzo ball mixture will likely come apart when you're trying to make your matzo balls.
Or it can be really dense. I mean, it's like too much glutinous. We also, something I love to do is actually chop up a bunch of herbs, fresh herbs like fresh parsley, dill, very, very small, very fine, totally minced, and actually put that into the mixture so that I have color, extra flavor in my matzo ball. So that's one of my favorite things to do. I don't think, we're not doing it today, we're going more traditional, but that's sort of something I've been doing for a long time now, and it's always a real hit because you have that color popping out in the bowl.
I'll just say, when I was a kid, I was not allowed to do much in the kitchen, but I formed the matzo balls, and I used to stick little bits of soup chicken into the matzo ball.
Oh, I love doing that
too. And it's a really nice, little trick that I still use today.
Just roll it in.
Roll it in.
Love it.
Okay, so let's do. I'm going to add this here slowly, and you're going to mix.
I think you should do it all at once.
Okay.
And I'm just going to pour. I'm going to try and mix it as little as possible.
Okay, there you go.
Great. Okay, so essentially we want to fold this, and once this is fully stirred, we're just going to put this in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes or so, and that is an important step. If you don't let this mixture sit and soak up, all of the egg and the liquid into the matzo ball, it will into the actual matzo. It will fall apart. You're not going to form as successful of matzo balls.
And this is great for planning ahead. You can make the matzo ball mixture in the morning, and then you can make your matzo balls later. Of course, you can have matzo balls made well in advance as well. But this is just it's a nice way to plan your cooking strategy for the Shabbat or for the Passover or for whatever meal you're using matzo balls for.
All right, we're ready to go. Let's put this in the fridge.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the soup, because to me the soup is I think it's the real star of the show. Yeah. That's what I think.
Fair.
Okay, so what do we have in here? We've got a whole chicken that we put in. We've got carrots. We've got celery. We've got onion, very classic combination. We put some black peppercorns in there, and obviously salt. We've been salting over the course of time, over the course of the 3 hours. And about an hour ago, we threw in some thyme, some fresh thyme. Some people like to put in fresh dill. We also put in some parsley. So it's really flavorful. It's aromatic. It's herbaceous. And it's getting kind of dark because we've been going for a while. And we do have some onion skins on there as well.
Yeah, which helps brown it out, add a lot of flavor too. And the other thing I think is something that I know was a big important part of chicken soup in my family's tradition is chicken feet.
Let's take a look at that. Yeah. Oh yeah, that is a chicken foot right there. We got a lot of those in there.
Yeah, and that adds not just flavor, it adds collagen to the broth. It is going to be a really nice addition. I know a lot of people who add flanken, beef flanken in their chicken soup as well for depth of flavor, and other chicken necks as well. And this is really kind of part of that resourceful Ashkenazi tradition of using all parts of the chicken, all parts of the bird, and it's really one of the things that inspires us most about Ashkenazi cooking.
Yeah, and I love when you have, when you use a lot of chicken feet and you cool the broth and then it kind of jiggles. That is an awesome thing.
You want that gel. That's when you know you've done it correctly. People might call that bone broth today, but
And charge you an arm and a leg for it.
That's true.
That's what it is. Cool. So that's going, and I think it's pretty much done. So we'll turn it off, and we will strain it out. We'll strain out we'll strain out the vegetables. But some people actually cook it for a little bit less time, and they use the vegetables that they put in the soup, and they actually serve those vegetables. But I know you and I really like to strain it out really well and cook some vegetables
separately. We want to get all the flavor from the vegetables we use, and then we'll add some fresher tasting vegetables in our soup. There's so many ways of making chicken soup. It's one of the most versatile Jewish foods, and that's what's so amazing about getting to make chicken soup together, is we both bring some of our own family traditions to bear. Yeah.
So I turned that off, and that's hanging out. Let's throw some matzo balls into the pot.
Fantastic. Okay, so we have our salted water and our chilled matzo ball mix, and let's form some matzo balls.
Let's do it.
So I always have a bowl of water, cold water next to me, so I'm going to wet my hands, and I'm going to form a ball.
Beautiful.
And I'm just going to do kind of a medium-sized matzo ball. This is definitely something that it's a big debate.
Right, the size,
Liz, you grew up going to a deli with a matzo ball that was
It's like
large.
These giant matzo balls, and I love those giant matzo balls. I still, every time I go home, which is pretty frequently, I still get that matzo ball pretty much every time.
Well, I like to have a few different matzo balls, so I always want to have 3 or 4 in my bowl. It just makes my holiday experience, so I like to make them a little bit smaller. But I think we're going to hedge again today and do a medium-sized matzo ball.
Yeah, sure. It feels good.
These are forming nicely.
Great.
These are going to be good matzo balls.
Yeah, no, I can tell. These are going to be awesome.
And one little trick that I know people do when they're making matzo balls on a large scale, delis do this a lot, is they form matzo balls with ice cream scoops.
Yes, then you get a uniform size. That's a great thing. And the other thing is, you can also make your matzo balls in advance. And we would always freeze them in broth. And then you just defrost the whole thing. But there's other people that just freeze them on their own, and it's fine, So you can make matzo balls in advance. And it's worth saying that if you do have a lot of broth, you can actually, you can cook your matzo balls in broth or in stock. We just generally cook them separately because you will get some pieces that fall off. So you don't necessarily want to eat the same liquid that you've cooked them in. So we're just using salted water, but certainly, if you've got a lot of stock hanging around, go for it. Cook them in there.
Okay, so we're gonna put the lid on. Well, we're gonna let it boil, and then we're gonna put the lid on and let it simmer and cook for
about 20, 30 minutes.
30 minutes,
yeah, till they're cooked through. Great.
Our matzo balls are ready.
Let's build our soup. Yeah. Let's do it. And you've got 2 matzo balls per your preference.
Listen, I like to have a lot of matzo balls.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Okay, so all right, we've got our matzo balls. We've got some chicken that we pulled from the soup.
I'm gonna give you a good amount of chicken there.
Yeah, I like that. Great. And then we've got the vegetables that we cooked separately, so they're nice and fresh. Just some extra carrots and celery. Nice. Great.
Great. And then one of our favorite delis, and one of the delis that I used to go to a lot as a child, was the 2nd Avenue Deli, and they would bring you a matzo ball. They'd bring you everything that you need in the soup, and then they'd come and they'd pour the broth into the soup at the table. And there was just something about the ceremony, the ritual of it, the theater of it all. That really told you that you're at the Jewish deli. You're at what a lot of people refer to as the secular synagogue, and it was sort of like an opening ceremony of sorts.
All right, let's do it.
Let's dig in.
I can see that texture.
Yeah, you can see little bits
great.
of that matzo.
Yeah.
That's what's fun,
Awesome.
Oh, that's
great.
It's everything you want. That's Jewish comfort food.
There it is.
Yeah, distilled into this form. Oh,
totally.
It's amazing.
It's Jewish penicillin right there. That's it.